Hi everybody, sorry about the technical problems. It seems my settings were so secure that I couldn't actually let Facebook into my computer, but hopefully I haven't upset IT by fiddling with all sorts of buttons, but it looks as though we are live. If anybody's there, please talk to me. Hi Millie, thank you for joining us. Sorry we are incredibly late. I'm more than happy to carry on a bit longer. We've had over 100 questions posed to us in advance of the session starting, so I'm really grateful to everybody who has sent a question in. If anybody spots any children running in and out, that'll be my kids. I've hidden away in my bedroom, so I'm hoping that we won't get any interruptions. So do feel free to post your questions on Facebook. The idea of today is to really give you an update on what we're doing, answer all of your questions, and to give you some guidance about where we think we're going to be going. We've had about 100 plus questions so far, and gaps in between your questions coming in. I will make sure that we go through as many as we can. We will also make sure that we go back to anybody that we aren't able to answer the question of at the time. I wish I knew the answer to what came first, chicken or the egg. Easter eggs don't last long in this house, so I don't know if that's an answer to the question. I'm going to start with a question that came in from a lovely lady called Hazel, and Hazel was querying the garden waste situation, and I am able to confirm we've had lots of questions about the suspension of garden waste. When the coronavirus problem first started, it was fairly obvious we were going to lose a proportion of our staff, and we had to prioritise our services. So we made the decision that in needing to prioritise refuse, recycling and food waste, that the one part of our environmental services that we could probably suspend for a while was green waste. We were able to let everybody know who was affected, and we have confirmed that the collections that have been missed will be restored either through adding the lost collections on to the end or addressing it for next year. But we will be announcing tomorrow our intention to, fingers crossed, restart green waste collections from next week. Everybody who has a green waste collection will be notified of when their collection will be, and we hope that we will have enough staff to be able to maintain that service going forward. Obviously, if that isn't the case, then we will notify people as necessary, and all being well, that will help people to get rid of that additional waste that's been generated. Question about when we can go back to school. I don't know if that's come from a child or a parent. It's probably the parents who are more keen for the kids to get back to school. Unfortunately, we don't know the answer to that. We're very much in the hands of government, like everybody else. But those children whose parents are key workers, or children who have education plans, or vulnerable children, are able to carry on at school. Some of the schools have continued over the Easter holidays. And I know my youngest daughter, Lily, is very keen to get back to school, but I think that's probably because her daughter is working her harder than her teachers. So Rachel's commented that a vulnerable person received a support call this week. Just to update you, over the last couple of weeks, we've called, in fact, I think it was over the Easter weekend, we called 1,064 people proactively who we were aware were vulnerable and at home, to make sure that they knew the telephone number for our helpline. We're continuing to proactively call people on the shield list. We have had over 5,000 calls from the public through our 0300 123 7052 number. And we have so far allocated over 800 of our volunteers to someone in the community to support. So if you know people that need access to food, or someone to talk to, or dog walking, anything like that, and they don't have anybody local that they can rely on, please do put them in touch with that phone number. Ryan's asked a question about houses on home choice. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that, but I will get an answer to you on that one. Council tax people not on benefits. So where people are struggling with their council tax and are on furlough, we do have the option to reprofile your council tax. So you'll know that we put our council tax from April to January. Where people are struggling and there is a good reason why you're struggling to pay that, we can shift that for you. We are asking people where you can pay your council tax to please continue your direct debit. Those services that we're providing are absolutely vital. We do need to make sure that the income's coming in so that our care assistants can get out, our social workers, our bin men. The council is as busy as ever. The staff are just in some cases doing different roles to normal, but if people don't pay the bills coming in, then we can't pay people either. So it's absolutely crucial that you do pay, but if you have been furloughed, we totally recognise that for a little while you're going to be struggling. So please get in touch with the phone number or the email address on your bill for your council tax, and they will help you to get that reprofiled so that you don't pay for the next 2 months. Alison's asked if we could put extra black refuse out for the bin men. We're asking you to please try not to do that. We want to make sure that we can maintain services, and if there is excess waste going out there, then it does risk our bin men having to take longer to do the rounds. So if you can hold on to it, please do hold on to it. We had a lot of questions about bonfires. Just to cover bonfires. Legislation allows people to have bonfires. Most of us believe that they're pretty antisocial things to happen. Most people are very respectful, and most people don't have them during the day where they're disrupting people who are at home or in their back gardens. We cannot ban bonfires unless there is legislation to allow that, but we do ask that people do not have bonfires. Your garden waste will be able to be collected shortly. When the household waste recycling centres reopen, you'll be able to take your waste back there. It really isn't acceptable to be having bonfires right now and causing real distress to people who are stuck at home. Some of the people who are on the shield list have been told that they have to stay at home and can only open their windows. If by opening those windows they're letting in other people's smoke from their bonfires, that's a really distressing situation. So it would be great if we can avoid that. Just rolling back to the question about home choice, I've just had a message through from one of my colleagues in housing who said that we're holding back the voids at the moment for people who become unexpectedly homeless. You will be aware we housed over 100 homeless people in the first few days. We've gone on to house an additional 100 who were what's described as hidden homeless, people who might have been sofa surfing or staying with family where it's no longer appropriate. We need to make sure we've got available accommodation for those. So those voids are being used for those emergency placements. So and actually moving at the moment is not being encouraged. So bidding for a normal house move where it isn't an emergency situation isn't great for as far as people moving around, social distancing, etc. So please do bear with us. There is method in that. We do want to make sure people who are urgently in need of a home, perhaps domestic abuse, that's something else we're getting a lot of calls on. There is available services for you if you are struggling with domestic abuse, but do get in touch with us. Victim support, refuge. We know it's really difficult, and I was listening yesterday to a programme on Radio 4 where there are some great apps you can get hold of to make yourself aware if you are in a difficult position. As far as the tips are concerned, I'm just rolling through. Apologies if I'm not getting to all of the comments. The green waste collections will be restarted next week. At this point, we're not able to reopen the household waste recycling centres, or TIPs as we mostly know them. The situation with that is that the police are very clear. There are 4 reasons for leaving home. We all know what they are. Getting food, getting your exercise once a day, providing support or care to somebody in the community, or getting medication. Going to the dump isn't one of those essential journeys, and we know that the police are quite understandably stopping people and making sure their journeys are necessary. People going along to the dump probably wouldn't be counted as an essential journey. Do recognise that it is difficult for people who have been taking advantage of the time to do their DIY or their garden, but I'm afraid you're going to have to hang on a little bit longer. The other reasons for not opening at the moment is, you'll know that Millam's opens out onto the main road. We know that the queues will be excessive, and we need to manage very carefully when we reopen them how we keep the network moving, and we don't actually cause alternative chaos. And also, can I just ask, we've had some brilliant gifts given to our refuse collectors. Thank you so much for your generosity. I know everyone's starting to appreciate the work that they do, but historically, the guys that work down at the tips don't always get such friendly support. So it would be really good if, when we do reopen them, that we just recognise that you are going to have to queue for a while, and our staff are only doing their job. So please be kind to them. So Gemma has said she's concerned residents without internet access will be unaware of the helplines. So what we're doing, Gemma, and everybody else who's asking the questions about the helpline, we've been on the TV, we've been on the radio, we've been in Echo. We are now posting 13,500 postcards to older people who we know don't have the internet. So they will have a postcard with the details on by the other side of the weekend. We're hoping that you will all share this information with people that you know, and the councillors are also doing some work within their wards to put posters up in local corner shops and garages, notice boards, etc., so that people, when they're out either shopping or going for a walk, will see the helpline. And also going to be posting them to places where they think that perhaps people who don't have access to the internet are. Those people who were shielded, who got a letter from the government, those people their details have been given to the council, and we're proactively calling those people to make sure they know what is available for them. Some of them were given food parcels. Some of them declined the food parcels, which is fine, but we are actively calling those people, making sure that they know what's available for them, and giving them the phone number so that we can get that out to as many people as we can. Okay, there's a question here, quite difficult to scroll up and down, so apologies, I've not done this before. Self-employed window cleaner, I can't work from home. Do I go to work as I'm self-distancing from my customers? The government have not said you can't go to work. You can go to work if your job cannot be done from home. Apologies, that was the fourth area. Clearly, you can't window clean from home. So as long as you are able to self-distance and keep 2 meters from your clients, there is nothing to stop you working. We have heard some really unpleasant things where people have been shouted at for doing their job under the misapprehension that no one's allowed to go to work. You are allowed to go to work as long as your job cannot be done from home and you are social distancing. And of course, if you do have symptoms of COVID-19, you should not be going to work because you should be self-isolating at home. So hopefully that answers that. Okay, I've talked about the tips. I'm not going to come back to that. When are Bournemouth doctors and nurses going to get correct PPE? The NHS are responsible for getting the PPE to the NHS. The council are part of what's called the Local Resilience Forum, which is where the PPE is distributed for council staff, emergency services, that sort of thing. We are providing all of the PPE that we have to the people that need it. We have provided around 30 care homes, domiciliary care agencies and individual carers with additional PPE. They all have their own means of getting personal protective equipment, but the supply chain is in a really bad way. we've been very generously donated additional PPE from businesses and schools and individuals. We've had some great offers and some great bundles have come in from our Chinese friends who have been delivering through networks in Bournemouth. We are distributing them wherever we've got them to make sure that people have the PPE that they need. The NHS are responsible for the PPE in the hospital, so I'm afraid you'll have to ask them about that one. I'm struggling as the messages are coming through so quickly. I'm probably missing some that are nearer the top. We've had money taken for green bin waste, can't afford this. I'm afraid the green bin waste is starting again next week. The 2 collections that you will have missed, you'll be compensated for. Okay, self-storage. Is there anything we can do as PPE for frontline workers? Just answered that one. Is council tax still going up? Yes. I'm afraid in order to provide the services that we need to do, we have no choice but to take in council tax. We have a huge loss of income now. We have virtually no car parking income coming in. We have no leisure income coming in. We have people who are struggling with their rent, who are going to struggle to pay us their rent or their council tax. For those people who still have an income, please keep paying your direct debits. We can't possibly change the council tax downwards. We have already spent millions more than we would have expected to at the moment. So, we absolutely, whilst we have things like libraries closed, we are spending a lot more money on other things such as adult social care, children's social work, nursery places for children where parents are needing to still go to work and their nurseries are closed. We're paying out hundreds of millions of pounds in grants. So I'm afraid that's just not realistic. Going back to something I said earlier, council tax holiday, if you have lost your job or are furloughed, you can get a delay on your council tax payment so that you have, they don't start until June. My boiler isn't working. How long do I have to wait for it to be repaired? If you are a council tenant and you have an emergency repairs are still taking place. Obviously, if it's not an emergency, if it's central heating rather than hot water, it might not be deemed an emergency. If you're a private tenant or homeowner, you'll need to make your arrangements in the usual ways. Okay, what else have we got here? Garden waste collected shortly. Are there any plans to postpone selective licensing schemes? So the selective licensing scheme is on pause at the moment. We are going to be approving that pause shortly. The consultation on that was due to finish around about now, but we haven't been able to do the landlords event or the public drop-ins. So that's being paused. It will restart again once we're able to move about again, and that will be publicised. Will children still have summer holidays? Don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. My children are affected too. My daughter's just been told that her international volunteering trip's been cancelled, so I've got tears going on about that. We're all trying to come to terms with this at the moment. Louise has asked about the homeless. Thank you for that. So we have housed around 100 people who were known to be rough sleeping and another 100 people who were what's described as hidden homeless. And we are working with our partners really, really hard to try and keep those people in housing as much as we can. Inevitably, some placements fail. Some people don't feel that they want to stay in housing, but we're doing everything we can. One of the reasons that we are not offering home choice for moves at the moment is because we want to make sure those voids are available for people who do become homeless. We are working on an exit strategy around homelessness. The portfolio holder for housing, Kieran Wilson, and his team are working through that at the moment, working out exactly what we need with our partners, with various charities, St Mungo's and others, to then see if we can get a grant from the government to make sure that we can keep everybody housed. We are also working hard with those people who are from the rough sleeping population to make sure that what they need in terms of medication and keeping them safe and fed is being looked after. So they are all in regular communication with their outreach workers. So it is our intention to keep people home, housed and supported for as long as we can. We are trying to work on a housing first programme, which is where we put people in a house or a flat, and we then put the services around them. And, you know, for many people that's really successful. For some it doesn't work, but we will work as hard as we can on those people. Reese, I'd love to adopt Verwood, but I don't think Spencer Flower would be very impressed if Verwood became part of BCP. Is there anything we could do for frontline staff in the NHS? We talk to them all of the time. We're working with them really closely, and you know, they have their own stock of PPE. They're coping pretty well. Clearly, we are getting deaths in the area. We are getting cases. You know, it is a tragic situation, and we're doing our very, very best to support each other. There's a question there about, thank you for taking biscuits to the tip. That's most appreciated. Not because you're tipping the biscuits, but because you're giving them to the operatives there. Somebody was asking, are civil enforcement officers still needed? We are only enforcing where there is a safety issue. So where somebody is parked in a no loading area or on a junction or outside the hospital or something like that, it is really important that we can actually act to move those people on. We took the decision a few weeks ago that where people were, for example, parked in residents only areas, which have restrictions on during the day when people are normally at work, we're not enforcing those, but we are clearly needing to enforce where people are parking in a dangerous way. Right, garden waste, I've covered that one. I'm not going to keep covering it. Please do, you will be able to watch this back on YouTube shortly. What if you've been laid off because of this lockdown? If you've been laid off, you need to apply for universal credit. If you've been laid off, go back to your employer and see whether they can furlough you instead. If they can furlough you instead, then you should be able to get 80% of your salary. Some businesses are retaking people on. I'm struggling to get through so many. Thank you for some of your kind messages. Right. What about the council tax? The council tax will stay, but if you are struggling to pay your council tax, you can get it deferred. You need to contact the telephone number or email address on your bill. No, Sarah, the guidance isn't you should only go to work if you're a key worker. You're only allowed to send your child to school if you're a key worker. But if you have to work and you can't work from home, then you are able to go out to work as long as you're able to social distance. Response, really support for the industry from Councillor Allison on tourism. Councillor Allison was unwell last week, so apologies. He has been out of action for a few days, but he's back on the horse now, so that should be good. We have written to the MPs. We are engaging heavily with the MPs on tourism. There is a meeting this afternoon with destination management team around a recovery plan. It's absolutely crucial that when it is safe for us to have people, that we get people down as quickly as possible. And we need to hope that people will make the decision to staycation. What we don't want to do is move too early and end up importing a whole load of COVID-19, which will affect everybody. So, you know, we need to do this right. And until it's safe for us to open up, we absolutely mustn't do that. I just want to talk about the situation with businesses. So just to call back to what Mike, who says we're not providing services for council tax. Not true. We're not providing libraries, but beyond libraries and parking in parks and things like that, most of our services are operating. The critical services are operating. We are absolutely working our socks off. We have over 150 staff who are now involved with the community hub, getting support out to people, and they have previously been housing enforcement officers, traffic wardens, people working in parks, people working in libraries, people working in finance. So everybody is redeploying wherever they can. Parking permit renewals have had their times extended, so just a quick one there. Primary school places, I believe that will still happen because those are not affected, so I would expect that through, but I will clarify. School holidays, Councillor Sandra Moore has said we're awaiting that from Department of Education. Businesses. We have proactively written to 7,200 businesses who, according to our records, are entitled to grants for the project, the program that the government announced. Of those 7,200 businesses, we have already processed over 2,000 of those claims. Over £30 million has been sent out to businesses. We could not send that out direct. The reason being, one, we had to have their bank account to know where they wanted the money to be sent. And secondly, they had to sign for the grant because there are rules around things like state aid. Really important that people know what they're signing for. And very sadly, we have identified quite a considerable amount of attempted fraud for businesses that are a bit mysterious. So it is important where we are handling taxpayers' money that we check it, but we are turning around in less than 7 days. So if you have made your claim, you should get it within 7 days. If you haven't made your claim yet, please go to your business address and pick up your claim form, or go online and download it and then send it in to us straight away, and we will get it processed as quick as we can. For those businesses who had their business rates scrapped, you will have been rebilled, so you don't need to make a claim for that. That's automatic. If you're furloughed, can you get assistance with council tax? So the council tax thing, just to go back on that again, is that if you need your council tax reprofiling, so we currently pay it over 10 months from April to January. If you are struggling, then the best thing you can do is to contact your council tax number on your bill, and they will reprofile it so you don't pay in April and May, but instead you pay June through to March. Obviously, if you lose your job, then you need to apply for universal credit, and if your income is below the certain threshold, then you may be able to apply for council tax support scheme. Okay, right, I've missed a few up here. I can't go backwards. Cyclists. We are really keen to look at whether we can reprofile some of our spaces. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. I'm hoping my husband's going to answer it. He's probably listening in. So, Paul, could you please go and answer the phone? Thank you very much. We are looking at whether there are roads that we can actually create more space for cyclists and walkers. It's really, really important that we create space. 2 meters, obviously, is the social distance space. And I would ask those of you who are out walking or cycling, if you do see somebody coming towards you or trying to, please do go in single file, because it's incredibly difficult for people to pass when you are 2 or 3 abreast. If we actually do that properly, I would like to think that we can all carry on being able to use our roads sensibly. More people are using the roads to cycle where it's safe to do so. I've seen lots and lots of people out and about who now feel a lot more confident on the roads. Hopefully we will be able to retain that confidence, have more people using their bikes, but we are working hard with officers to see if there are places that we are able to make more space for walkers and cyclists. Okay, right, new comments. Okay, I'm going to have to skip to the bottom. Parking permits. Okay, we'll check out the parking permit extension. I'll leave that with us. Okay, firms need to be aware not to game the system refurlough. Unfortunately, Dave, there are people out there who are going to attempt fraud to the council and others. That's why we're making sure that we're checking everybody that is making claims for the business grants. With furloughs, it is an arrangement through your HMRC and your payroll. The council isn't involved with the job retention scheme, so you need to deal direct either through your accountant or through HMRC for that. Sadly, we don't know whether the children will get their transfer day to secondary school. Obviously, it depends if schools go back in time for that to happen. And as soon as we know on that, we will share that information. Okay, will the 6 weeks holidays? Don't know. Food bins. Okay. How's the replacement of Poole Park Railway going? Well, clearly it wasn't going to be running until the virus has gone, but progress is going really, really well. Yeah, there is good news coming on that, but at the moment I can't share it. But I am confident that once we're able to open all of our services, it won't be too long before we're able to restore that. Okay, where else? What else do I need to cover? Right. Shopping. Can I just cover the fantastic community hub that we are operating through our Together We Can programme? Thank you to the 2,100 volunteers who have registered to help with this programme. Over 800 of you have now been given people in the community to support. I'm supporting a lady in my ward, doing her shopping and giving her a ring every couple of days, make sure she's okay. There are 800 of you doing similar, and as we get new people phoning up and asking for help and support, and we have had people email me as a result of this to say, I don't have any food, how can I get some? You need to contact that number, 0300 123 7052. We will then make sure that if you do need access to food, that we can get someone to go out and shop for you. It's really important that we don't leave anyone behind in this, and that people aren't going hungry at home. We do have our staff from our animal welfare staff are able to help with dog walking, and we are looking at restoring some social things as well through our library and our museum services for people who potentially are going to be stuck at home for quite a long time and are probably getting a bit lonely. I would definitely recommend things like online Scrabble. The lady I'm supporting, when I pop round, sometimes she's in the middle of a game and it's not very convenient to disturb her. So, you know, those sorts of things are great. Paul, your business grant you applied for 2 weeks ago, we weren't able to start dealing with them till the 1st of April. They were being turned around within 7 days. I have over 2,100 that have been paid. If you'd like to email me with details of your business, we can find out whether there's a problem. But bear in mind, it has been Easter, so those grants that were processed on Thursday won't be in the bank account probably until today. Right, okay, new comments. I apologise if there's going to be some in the middle that I've jumped. Any help for uni students? Unfortunately, you need to talk to your university with that. It's a real problem. The council's responsible for processing the grants it receives and making changes it needs to the services that we provide. So I'd strongly suggest speaking to your university. But again, that's down to landlords whether they continue to charge those rents. So I can't answer that question, I'm afraid. James, I've answered the question about council tax. Right. What have I missed on the MSc email you had earlier? Somebody wants to come back to me on that, I'd be grateful. Okay, can we open pop-up grocery stores on open ground where socially distancing? There are huge amounts of grocery stores there. Certainly, if you think about shopping later on in the day, I was able to walk into the supermarket that I use at Fleetsbridge without any queue at all yesterday. And the only thing that they didn't have in the superstore was flour. Still no flour. But everything else that I wanted to buy was there. There was huge deals on Easter eggs. So I don't know if there's any left today, but certainly, you know, I don't think there's a huge need for pop-up grocery stores. There are lots and lots of people who are offering food services. Okay. Right, loads of people are replying, which is great. Are dogs allowed on the beach after the 1st of May? At the moment, we don't know the answer to that. At the moment, dogs are allowed on the beach. The reason that dogs are not allowed on the beach after 1st of May is usually because there will be lots of families who are enjoying sandcastles and swimming and sitting, having picnics on the beach. Where people are not, having picnics on the beach and making sandcastles because we're not allowed to do that, there probably isn't a good reason to make that change. So we will be reviewing it at the end of this month based upon what we feel the need is. It's important to note that for a lot of people who live near the beach, that is where that is their local, and actually it might be safer for them to be there than getting in their car and driving somewhere further away. We are expecting some new government guidelines on this next week, and as soon as we have them, we will be sharing them with you. What support are we giving to Leisure Centre Trust BH Live? I think you mean, as opposed to BH Living. BH Living is not our Leisure Centre Trust. That's another company. We are talking to them regularly. We know they're struggling. I can assure you that these meetings are happening. So I would. We can come back to you on that, Josh, because I know you're from the Echo. So I'll see if I can get you a full update on that. Emma, please ban sky lanterns. Sky lanterns and balloon releases are not allowed in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. Please, please, please do not buy sky lanterns to then release into the air. They are incredibly dangerous, not only for our wildlife, but particularly with this dry weather, they can cause catastrophic fires, as we saw in Germany before Christmas, and they're basically just litter. So please don't do it. Save your money, give those extra few quid from buying the sky lanterns direct to the NHS if that's what you want to do. But we did actually pass a motion to council that does not allow sky lanterns or balloon releases from council land or at council licensed events. We cannot take action with people on private land, but we are definitely asking you to please stop it. It's not good. Meditation shortages. I'm wondering if you mean mediation or medication. I'm assuming it's not meditation. Medication shortages, we are aware that there are some medications that are difficult to get, but that's something which the NHS and public health will be working on. If it's about mediation shortages, I know that we're working really hard with our domestic abuse, children and social work, those sorts of things. They're continuing to work, but they're all working remotely. You're getting married on the 31st of July. Congratulations. I really, really hope you're still getting married on the 31st of July. I'm due to be going to a wedding at Merley House on the 12th of August, which was rescheduled from next Tuesday. I'm really hoping that Alan and Odette get their special day in August. So we can't tell you at the moment whether those weddings will still take place in the summer. When we know, we'll share with you. I'm so sorry. It must be an incredibly stressful time for you. Right, what have I missed? Bonfires. I wish we could ban bonfires, Karen. We absolutely would love to ban bonfires. We don't actually have the power to ban the bonfire. That would require legislation. However, if you have neighbours with persistent, difficult bonfires, you need to report them to us. If those bonfires are a particular problem, maybe someone's having them every day, they're burning noxious things, we can intervene. Our regulatory services people will take action. Go onto the website. There's 3 sections: Bournemouth, Christchurch, Poole. Go into the section for where you live. Go into the report it section. Find bonfires. Please report it. We are desperately trying to respond as quickly as we can, but unfortunately we don't have the legislation to ban them altogether. Okay, could food waste bags be distributed to supermarkets? I think you can buy them in supermarkets anyway, so I think that's something which you probably need to do. Okay, Chrissy, shielding, living in a flat with a dog, can you get help with flat dog walking? Yes, you can. Please ring 0300 123 7052. Let them know your situation. We do have a team of people who are able to walk your dog. So please get in touch. We don't want you struggling to get outside, and we don't want your dog struggling and suffering either. So please do that. Fly tipping, what's happening? So some places are experiencing increases in fly tipping. Other places are not. The evidence shows that across the whole of the area, the level of fly tipping is about the same as it would normally be at this time of year. So there isn't any evidence that across the board there is more fly tipping. That doesn't mean there isn't more fly tipping in some areas. We are aware of them. We are dealing with it. It is illegal to fly tip. If you choose to tip your waste and the waste is identifiable in any way, it will be traced back and you will be prosecuted. Don't do it. You know, keep the waste at home. Yes, it's very tempting to do the DIY or, you know, chop down trees in your garden or whatever. But I'm afraid at the moment, this isn't a holiday, it's a lockdown. We have to keep our people safe. And if you absolutely need to get rid of some waste, I know that there are still private companies who are still operating a commercial service. So if you feel that strongly that you want to get rid of a particular item, then there are commercial services available, but it is not appropriate for our staff to be working at the moment on our tips. Okay, so what have I missed? Green bins. Businesses with rent to pay to BCP with zero income. Matt, you need to communicate with our team. Obviously, if you're in a retail or leisure, then the business rates have been granted a holiday for the next year, so there are no business rates to pay. As far as your rent is concerned, if there are issues with rent, you need to talk to our team and they can look to re-profile that. Obviously, if you're in one of the 7,200 businesses that's entitled to a grant, the purpose of the grant is to be able to pay your landlord your rent. Whether that landlord is BCP or a private landlord, the reason that that grant is given is to cover your rent. And the reason the job retention scheme was set out was so that your staffing costs are reduced. So across those, it's really important that you take advantage of those schemes. We have to make sure that the council is still able to function, and we need to try and make sure that we help where we can, but we also have income coming in so that we can continue to perform all the functions that the council needs to do. Some functions that you might not know that we do, we're responsible for the mortuary and coroner service. You can imagine that is a real problem right now. It's a very expensive service. It's such an important service. If you lose somebody through unnatural circumstances, you have a right to an inquest under certain circumstances, and that is a long, expensive process. That is coming from your council tax. You know, those sorts of things people don't really understand. The mortuary services, we've expanded our provision of storage, but those staff, you know, that is a really complex piece of work that's being done in looking after the deceased, that we're having to do with obviously reduced staffing and increased costs. So social work, there are still children needing to be taken into care because their families aren't able to support them. But it's incredibly important that we can get to those children as quickly as we can and make sure that they are protected. And it's incredibly important that all of the people with disabilities and elderly people who are at home needing care are getting it. I had a message from a lady this morning to say thank you to her social worker who's gone above and beyond at the moment. She has a child with special needs who really is not coping with being stuck inside, and the social worker has gone above and beyond what she needs to do to support that family. So, you know, there is some great work going on out there. But I can't really comment on bonfire laws. I've explained the bonfires. We cannot ban them. We wish we could, but we can't. But we are asking desperately for people to not have bonfires. At the moment, we're not looking at refunds on the beach huts. Unfortunately, as I've already explained, our income has been decimated from this. And at the moment, we are prioritising the vulnerable and areas that need additional funds. Whilst I know that many of you consider beach huts to be an absolute essential in your life, totally get that, but we are prioritising the funds that we've been given on making sure that those people who have no income are able to get by. If you have a beach hut and you need help with reprofiling your payments, we can move those payments depending upon where you are, depends on how you normally pay for it. That can be reprofiled in the same way as your council tax. So we are able to do that, but at the moment we're not considering refunds on your beach huts. They are still there, and we're all having to make sacrifices at the moment. So apologies, but that's not something that we're doing at the moment. Okay. Thank you, Anna. I've got a sore throat from answering all these questions. I know I've missed loads, so I'm really terribly sorry that I've missed some. You can't even house the homeless, but can house people from different countries. James, not sure what your point is there. We have housed all of our homeless, over 200 people. And if people come here and they are destitute asylum seekers, we will house them because we're a humane group of people, and we wouldn't dream of leaving people who have absolutely nothing. So I'm going to agree to disagree with you on that one. I'm proud of the fact that our team have done incredible work. We do still have a few people who do not wish to come inside. We cannot force them inside. We would ask that people don't give money and food to people who are begging. They do have the option of hot meals in the homes that they've been given. And they do all have outreach workers, and unfortunately if you hand money to people in the street who are not coming inside, you're probably continuing that likelihood of them wanting to be outside. For those people who are worried about sanitation, for that small group of people who are not living in settled accommodation, we have made provisions for some toilets that they have been told about that have been opened especially for them and are being kept clean. We are not publishing where they are because we do not want other people using it and then having to increase the regularity of cleaning them, putting staff at risk. And sadly, when we did have public toilets open, people were stealing the toilet roll, stealing the hand sanitizer, and actually smashing the toilets up. So, you know, unfortunately, those people have made it much more difficult for the rest of us. Any help for single mums who aren't allowed in shop with their kids to buy food? So we've had it confirmed by the supermarket that the shop should be letting you in with your children if you have no option than to take them into the supermarket with you. It must be incredibly difficult. I'm grateful I can leave my children at home when I go shopping as they're older. You have a couple of options. There is the option if you have nobody and you're shielding, or you've got a vulnerable child and you need to stay at home, please use the helpline 0300 123 7052 and we can put you in touch with a volunteer to do your shopping for you. Alternatively, if you do need to take your children to the shops, then the shops should be letting you in if you have no alternative. But I would ask that you keep your children close to you, because we have had some unfortunate correspondence with people saying that children are running all over the place. I've been there when I had 3 under 5. It's not easy at the best of times. So if you do need to take them, keep them close and make sure that they're not infringing other people's 2 metre rules. Having said that, it's not just children that are infringing the 2 metre rule. Can I please ask that if there's anyone on here who really should be at home rather than queuing outside the shops, stay at home, let one of us do your shopping for you. We genuinely want to help. And if you are older, disabled, vulnerable, have an underlying health risk, and you're going out shopping because there's no one else to shop for you, please stay at home, call the number, and one of our 2,100 people will gladly go shopping for you, so you can get your exercise quietly around the block rather than standing in a queue where it could be dangerous for you and where you could be putting health workers, shop workers and other people at risk. So please, you know, if you can stay at home, stay at home. The fact that you are allowed out every day doesn't mean you have to go out every day. So, you know, that I would probably work on that basis. Okay. Right. Thank you. All the homeless who want to be housed are housed. There are a lot that don't want to be housed. Daniel, I think we had 11 that don't want to be housed. So it's not a lot that don't want to be housed. There's about 11 people. We know who they are. We're working with them. The door is always open. Sorry for the pun. We will be very, very happy to provide housing for anyone who wants it. Okay, have I covered most things? Yes, James, I've just covered that there are some elderly not social distancing. I don't think we should be targeting any particular age group. I think there are people in every age group, from children who are, you know, difficult to keep close to mum, through to young adults who probably feel invincible, and the messaging probably wasn't great at the beginning in suggesting that this is an old person's disease when it's not, through to cyclists, walkers, family groups who perhaps aren't giving enough space to other people, right the way through to older people who I have seen some terrible instances of them leaning across people in the supermarket. You know, we all have a responsibility to each other, whatever your age. Government food parcels for the vulnerable, how to get them. Okay, Terry, so the 1.5 million people who were on the shielded list were offered a food parcel. Some people took them. There was, we believe, a second wave of those vulnerable people who have been offered food parcels. They have been not selected by us. That's come through the GPs. So my best suggestion would be to go online to the government website or through your GP if there's somebody you feel that needs the food parcel. However, the food parcel is just an emergency food parcel. If somebody needs food, then we have volunteers who are able to go shopping for them. If people have access to the internet, they can obviously try and get themselves a delivery or click and collect slot. If they don't have access to the internet, but they want to do it themselves, we have access to shops who are able to take orders over the phone. If they're unable to do either, then as I say, we can set you up with a volunteer who can make contact, get your shopping list, go out, do the shopping, and deal with it that way. Had a lovely lady a couple of weeks ago who said, you know, was there a limit to what I was allowed to get for her? And I said, your only limit is how much money you give me and what's on your list. So we can get you whatever you like. It doesn't just need to be the basics, although please don't ask us to go out just for the bottle of brandy. I'm happy to get the bottle of brandy while I'm getting your bread and your milk, but yeah. Okay, business receive their grants. Most people will, if you've applied for your grant, Lou Wellman, you would be getting it in the next 7 days. If you haven't, then please apply for it now. What's happening with cyclists? You can cycle. Cycling, walking, running are the 3 types of sport that are considered to be appropriate types of sport. Please socially distance. That's what we need you to do. Be respectful of other people and make sure that you slow down. If you're going fast and there are slower walkers coming up, please slow down and think about people who are struggling. Okay, I know I'm going to have missed loads of stuff and I'm so sorry about that. Green bins we've covered. I would really encourage you. This will be going on YouTube. Probably not today because it's quite a lot of work that's needed to do this, but we will be putting a link to it from our website onto YouTube so you can go back and have a look at it. I'm going to carry on for another 10 minutes because I did start late. Sue Munro wants to know why the helpline won't collect prescriptions. This is a really difficult one. We tried to enable people to collect prescriptions, and we know that individual volunteers are supporting people with their prescriptions. The difficulty is that what we wanted to do was to set up pharmacies with volunteers who would get all of their prescriptions. And what was happening in the early days is that volunteer was standing in the queue alongside everybody else for an hour or 2 hours in some cases, getting to the front of the queue, and then wanted to collect 20 different people's prescriptions. And that was causing absolute chaos because those prescriptions weren't necessarily ready, they weren't in the right place, and that one individual was taking half an hour while everybody else was stood behind them in the queue. So every one of the pharmacies is an individual business, they're sort of franchises and things, and so the pharmacy organisation weren't comfortable with us doing this and are trying to set up a different system. Lots and lots of the pharmacies are now offering delivery services, which is their preferred way of doing things. Lots of individual people are collecting prescriptions on behalf of individuals, but we were asked not to do the bulk collections. We do still keep the conversations going. Public health are talking to the pharmacy people, but because it was causing a problem, we actually decided that we're not going to push this, but let people sort of come up with their own ideas. I think if you're Sue Munro, I think you're the Sue Munro, drop me a note. I'm happy to go and get your prescriptions for you. It's absolutely not a problem. And I just a big shout out. There are 75 counsellors in BCP. I say 75. Sadly, one of our counsellors passed away 2 weeks ago. But the 75 remaining counsellors are all here for you. Our job is to be your community champions. So if you have a problem in your area and you need support, please contact them. If they can't help you themselves, they'll put you in touch with someone who can. Most of us those of us who are not shielding, we have got perhaps 15 or 20 who have their own conditions, which means that they can't go out and do things in the community, but they are on the end of the phone, they are on their email. The rest of us are out there helping as much as we can. So please, please ask for us. We are here to help you. Do dogs need to be kept on lead when walking them? And is it okay if I take my dog out walk? Of course you can take your dog out for a walk. It's absolutely brilliant to take your dog out for a walk. As long as you pick up the poo. There is nothing more awful than dog poo left on the streets. Please don't do it. It's gross. Honestly, not nice. Dogs need to be on a lead where there are lots of other people. So if you normally keep your dog on a lead where you walk your dog, you need to keep your dog on a lead. If you walk your dog somewhere remote where it is normally okay for your dog to not be on a lead, the rules haven't changed. But bear in mind that if there are more people around, it's only respectful and polite to keep your dog on a lead, because not everybody likes dogs. My kids are one of my daughters is petrified of dogs. If you live in Broadstone and you have a friendly dog and you'd like to help fix my daughter's paranoia about dogs, that is her summer challenge, is to not be scared of dogs. So let me know. But, you know, your dog still needs a walk. Please do it respectfully. Please do take your dog for a walk around the block. They need the exercise, and so do we. Okay, could call the police. I hope that's not me calling the police. I hope I haven't done anything to offend you. By-elections. Yeah, well, the law has changed. As far as the council is concerned, by-elections are now not allowed under the coronavirus bill. There can be no elections until May 2021, unless that by-election is coronavirus bill is revoked. So there'll be no police and crime commissioner election this year, and there'll be no by-election until that law is changed, or May 2021, whichever comes earlier. Yes, the gentleman that died was an independent, so we're hoping to replace him with another independent. So we'll see, Rob. But the issue around governance is that we are continuing with meetings as we can. So we had the first meeting of licensing took place yesterday. Overview and scrutiny board takes place on Monday. Cabinet is next Wednesday. Most other meetings have been postponed, and that's mainly because the officers who need to write the reports and do the work that we then make decisions on are being redeployed on more urgent issues. So it's really important that we allow them to do that, and where it's about future work, we can delay that. The other thing is we are having to go to ground zero on our budget, which we only got through 6 weeks ago. But effectively, this virus could cause devastation to the finances of councils all over the country. We don't know yet. The government has told us, spend what you need, you will get it back. Now, I don't wish to be political, but I am sceptical, because there's an awful lot of people who were told a few weeks ago, no one gets left behind, and now being told, don't know if we can cover X, Y, and Z. So I'm a bit conscious that we don't want to be throwing money out left, right, and centre, and then find that we don't have the means to fund it, because I don't want to be in a situation where I've got to come to you and say, we've got to put your council tax through the roof because the government didn't reimburse us. That's not what we're in this for. We want to give good services to people at the right time, at the right level. So for me, it's not the right time to be bringing in new policies which are going to cost the council money until we can be sure that we have the money to do the work that we want to do. This gives us an opportunity, though, because I don't know about you, but I feel quite strongly that there is an opportunity to see some good from this pandemic. whereby we look at how we live our lives, and the council should be no different. So if you've got any ideas about how you think we could do things different, and please, those smart questions about get rid of all the councillors, because actually you need to be governed by somebody, and we're a heck of a lot cheaper than MPs and others. But if you've got ideas about how the council might do things differently, services that perhaps you think, why do we do them anymore, or things that we should be doing, I want to hear them. So email me. Don't put them on here, because we're not going to be able to deal with them here and now. They need to be considered, they need to be thought through, they need to be costed. But why not take this opportunity to think about how we do things differently? I know I'll be running my life differently after this, and I'm sure lots of you will. So if you think the council could do it differently too, tell me about it. We'll spend some time thinking about it. Some of you have got angry faces at this, some of you are laughing. Fair enough, you could all be cynical, but you know, believe you me, those of us who are councillors, we didn't get in this to be difficult. We're trying to make things better for our communities, and I hope some of you will see that. Chris Wakefield, thank you so much. Your mum is being looked after extremely well by the care agency. Thank you, appreciate that. Mixed messages. The police. So let me just finish on a message about the police. The police have got an incredibly difficult job right now. They have been charged with the enforcement of the lockdown. They are being contacted by people who are reporting comings and goings in their neighbours' addresses, perhaps people who shouldn't be going to an address. I've heard of stories where people have been going into other people's houses supposedly to deliver food, and have been there for 4 hours, or have been taking kids out for extended periods of time, and gatherings in people's back gardens, barbecues, parties. You know, it's really, really difficult, because yes, they need to be reported to the police, but the police only have enough capacity to deal with the really difficult ones. So if you think that there is a serious infringement going on, if you've got someone that's consistently breaking the lockdown, putting people at risk, do go online to the police websites, the 101, report it. They are breaking up groups. They are visiting places where people are gathering that they shouldn't be gathering. They are going along where they think that there is something untoward happening. Clearly, if there's a crime and life is in danger, 999 as usual. If there's another type of crime, 101. But, you know, they still have got to do that job as well. So just be mindful that, yes, people are being antisocial and irresponsible and putting us at risk, but the police can't get to everybody as best as they are trying. There were a lot of people from out of area who were stopped at the weekend coming in on the A31. 95% of the vehicles they stopped did not have a reasonable excuse and were turned around. We do know, people have been telling us about flats and properties where they live that are being stayed in by holiday makers. If we can get people to not arrive, we can stop them coming. But once they're in the properties, that would be an eviction, and that's not something which the police are able to get involved with. Okay, the people who on here are saying you've applied for your business grants and haven't heard anything yet. If it has been more than 7 working days, please count back on your calendar. So if you applied probably on the 31st of March through to about the 3rd of April, drop me an email. I am very happy to find out what's going on with them and why yours might have been delayed. If it was after the 5th of April, then bear in mind 7 working days won't have expired yet, because we've had 2 bank holidays where the bank can't make payments. So that's something we can't control. Somebody reckons I need something stronger than a G&T. Yeah. Carers, what about carers, Kirsty? I'm not quite sure what your question is. If it's what support are we giving to carers, there are helplines that if you have particular problems, lots of carers are carrying on their work. Where they're not carrying on their work, if you've been left without a carer, you need to contact us on the 0300 123 7052. We are providing PPE to our carers. There are still people who are being assessed and getting new care packages in place where they need to. We have also commissioned space in a hotel for people being discharged from hospital. Our adult social care team have been amazing in getting people discharged from hospital safely, so there is space in the hospital for those people who really, really need it. So well done. I cannot fault the council staff at the moment, from the communities team who've pulled together this call centre in a matter of days, to the environmental team who've rescheduled all of the bins, through to the adult social care, the children's team, the democratic services team who've been checking all the laws, changing the way we do things. Our IT team have built over 600 laptops over the course of about 10 days. So there is now around about, I don't know, 30, 40 people left who don't have the ability to work from home or in an office that is safe for socially distancing. So the vast majority of council staff are working. There are very, very few who are unable to do their job and not been redeployed elsewhere. So I think the council staff have done an incredible job. I'm incredibly proud to lead the council, and I'm grateful to all of you who have taken part today. We will come back with all of the answers to anyone that we haven't answered. My husband wants to know if I want coffee. I think I need a coffee with something in it. Yeah, please do. But Jeff, the self-employed, that is a government scheme. You need to apply. I believe that the self-employed scheme, you don't get paid until June. You need to go online and find out the details of that one, because it's based upon your profits from last year. So that's not one that the council are involved with. Kirsty, the rules with doing walks around the clock as they support multiple, you really need to speak to your carer about how they're operating. They need to keep themselves safe too. We're all having to change our lives, so it may be that there are less walks around the block available for people at the moment. Okay, I'm going to sign off now because it's 1:20. Luckily, my 1 o'clock teleconference was moved. We will repeat this. We are going to learn the lessons from today. I have now got the text sorted, so I won't be late again. I'm really grateful to everyone for logging on, and I hope I've answered as many questions as I can. We'll let you know in good time before we do it again, and I hope we'll make this a regular part of our community engagement, because alongside everything else we do, I think this is a really useful way of you seeing what we really do, and I'll try and do it in a different room of the house next time. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.